Okay, so good morning, everybody. This is the Street Coffee podcast. My name's Neil. We've got a really interesting customer stroke person who's going to talk to us about their their business, which is a sports related business, physical activity tool for anybody of any age. So I'd like to introduce Sean from Street Tag. Morning, Sean.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Seun from Street Tag, the founder and CEO of Street Tag.
Brilliant. So just as I know a little bit about Street Tag. We've uh, crossed paths in a couple of roles that I've done previously. Um, what what is Street Tag, and how do you sort of promote that across the communities where you're based?
Sure. So essentially, Street Tag, um, our vision is to get every family everywhere physically active. And we do this by a smartphone app that basically converts your community street green spaces into a virtual playground to make physical activity fun and motivational for families. And there's quite a lot of gamification built into the Street Tag app experience. So essentially, how it works is on the app, there are these virtual tags that appear on the map screen of the app. And once you're within 40-meter radius of a virtual tag, you basically collect the points assigned to that tag. So the more points and tags you scan, you get to collect more points, and then that point allows you to climb up on the community leaderboard. And then you win prizes for that. A couple of examples of gamification on the app. So after every 18 tag, on average, each tag is around 10 points. So after every 18 tag that you've collected, you get 200 points bonus. So you can imagine, let's say you're going to your local shop to buy some milk, and then maybe you've collected just 15 tags along the way. You're likely to take a quick detour and go via a longer route and do more exercise as a result, because you want to collect like three more to make it 18, so you can collect your 200 points bonus. And then also lastly, the second of a gamification amongst many, we have this thing called Power Hour, whereby if you commit to an hour of exercise a day in advance on the app, and then so let's say, for example, tomorrow is Wednesday, and if I go, I would have to set in advance to say I'm going to go to exercise on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Now, if I go and exercise and collect tags during that time, all the tags that I collect will be triple pointed. So it's called Power Hour. And we have quite a lot of families across the country that are using the Street Tag app to basically commit to an hour of exercise a day and use the Power Hour, either during cycling, walking, or running, or if you're using a wheelchair, if you're rolling on your wheelchair.
Sure. So where did the concept of Street Tag come from? Obviously you being the founder, the idea. Where did the idea spring from one day?
So it actually started in London Borough of Barking and Dagenham, and it started as a result of my interaction with some of the uh, directors and staff of the local authority, and then also we have a a makerspace lab that we co-founded with the local authority. So with the combination of my conversation with the staff of the local authority, realizing actually how much there's an obesity issue.
Sure.
And
So
then
it was a targeted project.
Correct, it was.
Sure.
And then we then had the challenge to basically propose an idea of how we could use technology being a makerspace where we do a lot of stuff with software and hardware. How can we use that combination with a bit of fun to get families spending more time outdoor exercising? So that's sort of the background of what led to it. And in a way, also selfishly, I also wanted a way, other than the fact that I play football on weekends, I wanted a way for myself and my family also to keep active regularly, like something fun to make us enjoy it, especially myself, if I'm honest. I wanted that thing, like, because I'm not a gym person.
No.
Like, if I were, if I never even ever bothered to now, but I mean, I've been to gyms before, especially when I was in my first year at uni. But if I was to sign up for a gym membership, I would stop going after a few weeks because it's just not me. I
Yeah.
like to do something a bit more like unofficial
Outdoors.
outdoor rather than like something official when I'm inside a building running.
Choose when to do it. You're not restricted by hours. You know, you can go when you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I totally understand that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, especially in the current climate, that can use this app to help them benefit their mental health and their fitness levels. Like I say, in the pandemic. Um,
Absolutely.
one thing that I wanted to sort of touch on was, so with the original project, Barking and Dagenham Council, I'm guessing they funded the app for you to then roll it out to
So yes,
the borough.
the local authority. So basically, we had to go through a like a procurement process
Sure.
alongside a few other organizations,
Okay.
and our application uh, luckily was successful, which we're very grateful for, because that really set the tone of what Street Tag is today. But actually, the first version of Street Tag, I don't know if you're aware, but it wasn't actually a software. It was an hardware whereby we 3D printed like some boxes, and then we put a bunch of electronics inside of
I
it.
was gonna ask you.
Um,
I wouldn't imagine it was straight onto an app to
yeah,
to do it. So obviously it evolved. It evolved from the boxes you're saying.
yes, it evolved from that. We did some about 2 months of R&D, launched that. We had a lot of family interest. We started on just one ward or estate in Barking and Dagenham, but unfortunately, the older boxes first launched. So basically, these boxes we then give our fob keys. In fact, luckily, I'm testing something else at home today, so I have some of even the fobs from 2017 summer
Yeah.
here, and all the boxes were all vandalized when we put them out on lampposts for families to go and scan it with their fob keys, which is quite very disheartening at the time after 2-3 months of worth of hard work.
Your first challenge was to work out how you could do it without people taking or vandalizing your product, really.
Yeah, absolutely. We launched a second time with like an improved version, metal boxes, and then a few security stuff improvement. But still, that was also vandalized again. And then before it was then the third time, I remember in 2017, December on Christmas Day, we were busy writing code. At that time, we'd pivoted and told the look for it. Okay, we're going to make a third time lucky. We're switching completely to a software-based product. And then
Yeah.
in like January 2019, sorry, 2018, when we launched our first 6-week experience, and then things started to go pick up and go really well then.
Okay. So what communities? We'll stick with Barking and Dagenham at the moment. So what communities have you engaged with? Obviously a general community, but what communities are regular users of the street tag app? Is it just general public with followers from the app, or have you engaged with other sort of organisations, schools? You know.
Um, so yeah, so it's quite variety of different communities or organizations, as you put it. So there's schools that use the platform. So we actually have two different types of leaderboard. One is the community leaderboard,
Sure.
which you can have up to 6 members in your team. And then there's the schools leaderboard where schools compete against other schools. So the kids, the parents, and the school staff can represent the school. And then there's up to 250 people that can represent the school, and then they can have more than one team if once they fill up. So we have schools that participate. We also have some, for example, some local organizations such as cycling clubs that I've started to over the past recent years. I've started to use the app as well. So it does quite vary. It's starting to really spread out to different touch points. And even, maybe we can talk about it more later on. Like right now, we're also buzzing and excited about something we want to experiment with, whereby since we have a lot more families in Barking and Dagenham now that are starting to pick up cycling as a result after using Street Tag for walking for a while. So they want to like step up a bit and get more points. So a lot of them are buying bikes. So we actually then want to collaborate with um, our local library services, whereby they have book delivery services. So we want to give like residents even more stuff to do in terms of more go, so they can have more reason to go exercise. So basically they'll be able to pick up but with safety guidelines, of course, pick up like books from the library as volunteers, and then they can then do drop off to homes of vulnerable people at their doorstep. Similar to if you have an Amazon person deliver product to your door, leave it outside your door. So Street Tag is also going to be facilitating that sort of like tag delivery system down the line, which is going to be really exciting as well. So you can see, it's come a long way.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what I would, we've touched on funding, obviously. So I'm guessing now you've sort of evolved and you've moved into different areas. How many sort of areas are Street Tag as such, project wise, involved in now?
I can mention a few, but I've never really took them as numbers, like, oh, 8 places or 7. I don't really know it like that. But I can say, confirm, we're in Barking and Dagenham, we're in Basildon, we're in Oxfordshire, and that includes Cherwell. We've been live in Hounslow, uh, we're live in Kingston, um, we're live in London Borough of Redbridge, um, and we're also going live in hopefully in about a month or two in Colchester. So I think that's about 7.
Yeah.
There's maybe one other one I'm
Is
missing.
that are they all funded by the councils connected to those areas?
Yeah, exactly. But then it's some of their, their contractors to deliver, this service for them. But then some of their funding is slightly it's not necessary from, actually most of it is not necessary from the local authority directly. So for example, they might have a project where Sport England is funding them. And then so then they then subcontract us as part of that
Yeah,
delivery.
yeah,
So just to clarify, it's not necessarily meaning like, oh, it's local authority budget. So they
no.
just have an interesting way of doing it.
So anybody can, just to make it clear to everybody, anybody who's got a phone, can get your app, download your app
Right.
from
Yeah, it's free.
from
Yeah,
today, and can
yeah,
start doing it.
absolutely. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. Um, so ambitions going forward, John. What are, I'm sure you've got plenty, but what's the one that's on your tip of your tongue at the moment that you can think of, and
Yeah,
the
very
general
good
public
question.
can look
So,
forward to seeing.
so first, I should clarify, like, especially in this Q1 of 2021, like we've we're trying to really focus on getting a lot of our basic stuff right. So that means, making sure, because we're seeing increasing demand and families wanting to use the apps, we want to really get the basic stuff out, just so I say that. But then at the same time, we have some really exciting stuff that we're working on. So we actually, this week we released something called Monumentals that we've been working on for many months. Essentially, I think this is going to be like an quite a huge game changer, like for us and just for society in general. But again, it remains to be seen, and we need to prove the use case. So essentially, with the monumentals, this is where we're now gearing up to start to onboard local heritage, history. So you can basically add the content of your local palaces, basic places of interest.
Okay.
You can curate it onto Street Tag, and therefore, so it means the Street Tag app can now be used and also going forward will be used as your personal tour guide. So when you get to a place of interest, for example, you just flick out the phone, and if we have that space curated already, you'll be able to basically experience the history of that location in auditory formats. So the history in audio will be played to you, and also you can also watch video, and also you can view text, you can view images, old pictures as well. But the fascinating part of this is you'll be able to view in augmented reality, so in AR mode. So it's like your phone will just basically use your camera, and then you'll project it in front of you through your phone. So it's really quite interesting. So last night I uploaded a demo video on LinkedIn. So it's quite exciting. I think that's going to be really huge, especially now that obviously there's social distancing, there's restriction of movement. So this is a way that you can safely engage, improve tourism and visitors in your community, and also allow your local residents to learn about the local history of where they are safely.
Mm. Okay, sounds excellent. So do you have a launch date for that, or is that something that's still?
So that's going to be launched alongside our partners in Barking and Dagenham, actually. So pen to print. So it's going to be also part of the Bearcountry 100 years estate celebration in Barking and Dagenham. So that's going to be exciting. Obviously, because of the current national lockdown, so there's a bit of delay in terms of the official launch. So we've been having a few update meetings on and off recently. So hopefully, I reckon we should be have an official date that the constant will start getting behind between March and April that goes live. But obviously, the technology is ready right now, and then we're just kind of getting the word out, like in case any local authority wants to work with us to start onboarding their content, creating their content. So that's good to go. So it's just a matter of, so now is a good time to onboard some of this content so that once the lockdown is over, okay, we're good to push this out.
Cool. That sounds brilliant. That sounds brilliant. And obviously, with the touching on the lockdown, have you seen a rise on your data for more people using your app due to the restrictions, not necessarily lockdown, but the restrictions over the last
interesting enough, when the first lockdown first happened, I think at the time we had users collecting around just over 20,000 tags a day. And then lockdown came back in March 2020, and then boom, that dropped all the way down to around 3,000 to 4,000 tags only a day. So it was a shocking moment for a lot of people. But now I can tell you, even with the second lockdown, we're way above we're averaging anything between 50 to 60,000 tags a day being collected. So you can see even way beyond the last year's peak, like we've smashed that completely.
It doesn't surprise me, because obviously people are restricted on activities. They can't go to gyms and their leisure centres and things like that, swimming pools, and keep fit or play football. A lot of the time it's been they've been locked down on that. So I've seen similar. I've seen a lot more people walking, cycling, that I've never seen before. Yeah. So for that, street tag must be a great way of recording, and enjoying a walk or a cycle. It's not just oh, I'm going out for a walk, or I'm just going out for a cycle. I'm going to do a couple of miles, or I'm going to go on my bike and do 15 miles. It's I can gain something and enjoy that. So from that, what is the motivation for somebody to download your app to then just go out for a walk? So how would you sort of justify somebody doing that today after this?
Yeah, so very, very good question. One thing I would like to encourage or explain to families or individuals in general is that people have lots of different reasons of why they want to be more physically active and why they want to use street tag. The main stuff is that we can make the experience really, truly fun for you, whereby it's almost like a playful experience, but then it just happens that you're being physically active as a result. because of how the whole gamification, the experience on the app is designed. And also it's a really interesting way for you to, because you can have up to 6 people in your team, for example, in a community leaderboard, and it's a world leaderboard that anyone from that are not residents of any of the areas that we've mentioned, you can join a world leaderboard and still use the app for free.
Sure.
So the fact that you can have up to, you can do it with your colleagues, you can do it with your children, you can use your sisters, brothers, your nanny, grandpa. So you even have like people in, so many people in their 50s and 60s using the app, believe me or not. So it's not just for young people or middle-aged people. So it's
And
quite
I guess the good thing about it is that they don't have to be with you,
exactly.
you know.
Exactly. And then you can all, for example, you can have someone in Manchester. You can have a relative in Manchester. You can have you living in Norwich, for example, and you can be on the same team. And
Yeah.
it's that motivation of like, oh, you're all trying to see how many points you can accumulate in a day. I know you're working as a team, and also you want to try and catch up other people on the leaderboard as well. So
Yeah.
it's just,
You got that.
oh,
You got
you
the
want to make
competitive
bigger
edge as well.
exactly. So it's just really, it's the fun if you're looking for a fun experience in a way that, there's no pressure. No one's like, unless you put the pressure on yourself on street type, we never say, oh, you need to do this amount of exercise a day. Like, that's not what we're about.
No.
We just focus really genuinely on how can we make people's experience of physical activity remarkable using street tag. Because if you feel like it's remarkable enough, you're more likely to remark about street tag to your friends and family. So literally that's what we focus on. There's no pressure on it. We focus on making your physical activity truly remarkable.
No, that's good. And that's, for me, especially in lockdown, from a personal view, going out, and getting some fresh air and getting, some headspace, maybe, parents have been homeschooling all day, can we go out for a walk? Can we have a bit of a challenge? Can we integrate it into the PE lesson of the child who's doing the homeschooling? So
Yeah, absolutely.
something a bit different, something enjoyable instead of doing a Joe Wicks inside, on a phone. We're getting some fresh air. We're finding. I found over a lockdown period that there's places that I've never walked before and never seen buildings before. I've just probably driven past them. Never taken everything for granted, and you're like, wow, that's a lovely building, or oh, I didn't realise there was a field that goes through to a lovely walkway. So I think it's finding other things. There's always negatives in a lot of things, but there's lots of positives in the way of especially like this. It's a communication link. And spreading the word of something that is really positive for people, and definitely something that I would promote to people. To say this is a great way of keeping fit, but you've got a little bit of a challenge as well. So, I think that's brilliant. One thing on a note, how do you track behind the scenes? How do you track how active people are? So you've got a device, I'm guessing, that goes back to a source to then how many, because I'm guessing if you're being funded by organisations, they'll want to know sort of the activity data to keep that that project going, maybe, or to
Yeah.
to engage
So
on a different
yes,
project.
especially in locations where we have contracted to roll out street tag. So we do have like data reporting that we need to insight that we need to report back to them, to make sure they can see the impact that a project is having, and that way they can keep on wanting to continue the project. And also they also, for example, if they're funded by Sport England, they also need to pass on their own project reports as well. But tracking wise, we're not really interested in tracking people's activity in a negative way per se, because in every user is in total control of their data on the street tags. So in your settings, for example, you can download all your data. You can see your history of where you've been tagging, that kind of stuff. or at the number of steps recording that you've had, just similar to any other apps that you might be using to track your steps, for example. But then one of the really unique stuff that we have is you can also delete your account directly. And then once you, again, because we don't, because under GDPR, you're entitled to your own information, this kind of stuff. We
Sure.
wanted to reduce the amount of support ticket in the future, that in case people are asking us, oh, can you send me all my data? Can you delete my stuff? Everything is, you're in control of it. Once you press the delete on the app and you go through the process, that's it. You'll wipe off our server, like we have no control of it. So I just wanted to put that out there. So you're
Sure.
in total control. But yes, so we do pass on aggregated information, such as, for example, how many total miles have people done, let's say in Barking and Dagenham, how many total steps. So it's all aggregated information. So it's almost anonymized.
Yeah.
And how many tags have been collected, what are the most physically active locations, that kind of stuff. So for local authorities, it's also useful for them if they want to know, for example, in some places you have the deprived areas and you have the affluent areas. You want to see, okay, what the level of activity comparison between the deprived area and the affluent areas. And then therefore, if you're seeing some difference, maybe if people are not picking up more in the deprived areas, how can you then, because that's not useful insight, to then target that area more to provide even additional support to make sure they're picking up the platform a lot more in there. And then you can then gradually then increase the level of participation across both areas in your community. So we do have those kind of conversation happening. And we've a lot of the local authorities that we work with, we have regular bi-weekly team meetings that we have to make sure we're constantly checking in and we're pushing the boundary of of the improvement that we want to have.
So from the funded projects, do they set you targets to say they want so many thousand people engaging on street tag within a period of time, or is it very much a let's just go and see how this works and we can adapt as the journey?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. Especially with lockdown, it's like really tricky because we've had to really adapt a lot in terms of how we onboard and also how we launch remotely. So we've launched in so many places. Most of these lists that I gave earlier were launches that we did during the lockdown. So you can imagine a lot of learning. And then as I've also mentioned, we've seen the families like numbers picked up significantly, the activity level picked up significantly. So it means we're doing something well. So it's a bit of both in terms of target and also seeing where you're exploring. And for us, it's a partnership and collaboration. So in the sense that like we try to personalize street tag to that locality. So there's a lot of like different things, like some things might be available in Barking and Dagenham, and it'll be some things will be available differently in Basildon, for example. So it really does varies in some of the personalization. We try to customize the experience based on the local history or the requirements of that area.
Sure, yeah, I understand that. So just wrapping it up really. And again, appreciate your time and giving us a bit of an insight into street tag, because I'm guessing a lot of people have probably not heard of street tag in certain areas, because it's obviously it was more targeted originally, as you said, in Barking and Dagenham, and then it's sort of starting to move out of London or the London boroughs and moving out, like you said, in Oxford. But just an idea of, obviously you don't have to be in those areas as you've mentioned. I've just quickly show, just so people can potentially see, the app is the yellow tag. I would encourage people to download it today and get involved, because it's obviously working well in those areas. Plus, let's get active. We're still in lockdown. It's a way of engaging. Get out of the house and do something positive with your family, because you can still, in lockdown, you can still do activity with your family. So, and obviously in potential your bubbles as well. So personally, I think it's a great app. Let's try and get it out there and help Sean get as many people active as possible. So again, I'd like to thank Sean for your time, and Street Coffee will be following you and you know, retweeting everything that you do just to try and get out there, because I think it's a brilliant concept. So Sean, brilliant, great to speak to you. And like I say, we'll keep in touch, and hopefully once your other projects are out there, we'll get you back on and have a chat about those, and you can tell us how those journeys are happening as well. So again, thank you, Sean, and well, good luck
You know,
in the
thanks
future.
for having me.
No problem whatsoever. Okay, brilliant. So thanks again. So just to give you, just for listeners, our next episode will be promoted on Twitter and Facebook. So just keep an eye out on there, Street Coffee. Simple as that. Search Street Coffee on Facebook and on Twitter. You should find us easy enough. So great to have you on board, and look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.